Okay guys, so when you have your canvases, you're going to want to measure them. Even though they print the size, you're wanting to double check because they were hand wrapped, not perfect. Once you have that size, add 1/8 of an inch and then mark your board. Now I'm using 1x2 select pine boards from Home Depot. You can also find them at Lowe's and other hardware stores. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up my blade so that my 45-degree cut is hitting my mark, because I want my mark to be the outside measurement. That's the longest point. And then that will make sure that they wrap around. Now, when I'm cutting these, I'm going by feel. I'm also using a clamp, but I'm not measuring and marking each one. Now, if I had to do it again, I would go ahead and measure each canvas because, again, they are hand wrapped and they were a little bit different. Some were tighter than others, even though all my boards were the same. So what I did is I added 1/8 of an inch to the length and the width, and then that allowed the canvas to fit in there because the canvas is wrapped around its own wood frame, and that adds a little bit of thickness. So as you can see, I'm just feeling it out, butting it up against the blade, making sure they're all the same. And I cut all my boards at once. Start with your largest frames first, because if you have excess on a board, that can come in handy for some of the smaller frames. I just wanted to change up the angles so that you could see how I just use my fingers to feel the edge there and make sure that they are flush and that they're perfectly the same. And then after you cut all your frame boards, then you're going to take a 3/4 inch square dowel, and I cut, they're about 4 inches long, and I cut one for each corner of my frame. Now this is going to be not seen, it's for stability, and they can all be the same size even though your frames are different sizes. Now once everything is cut, I'd like to go ahead and lay them out, and then I'm using my Craig corner clamp. Now I couldn't do this without this clamp. Even with another set of hands, it would probably be a bit of a challenge just because of that angle. And so the way it works is I set up my boards on the table and then place my clamp over it, and then I lift it upright and really make sure everything is lined up. There's no space, because once you clamp this down, it is set and it's ready to be nailed. Now to nail my frame, I used 1 1/4 inch brad nails. Now I just showed you that I used 2 nails. Sometimes I added a 3rd nail, and then after all my 4 frames were intact, then I went ahead and added an additional nail to the corner that you didn't see me do. So each corner could have 3 to 4 nails, and that seemed to be the sweet spot for stability and it not feeling kind of rickety like it could bust. This clamp, like I said, is a lifesaver. It allowed me to set up the entire frame in just a few minutes, brad nail it, and then I was done with the frame part. Now, one regret I do have is adding some wood glue. I think the wood glue would have just given more stability and security. I think I skipped it because it seemed a little difficult trying to line everything up and not have glue getting everywhere, but in hindsight, I would have done it. Okay, so for this part, you definitely want to make sure you want to identify the front of your frame. The pine boards are not all created equally, and so some boards look nicer than others. You're just going to line up your 3/4 inch dowel piece with the 45-degree cuts, and you're going to just line it up so that each side is flush. And I'm feeling out the back side because you want the back right there. See my thumb? I'm making sure it's perfectly flush. You can't just place it anywhere because this is giving your canvas a place to sit. These are lined up along the back. Like I said, they're 3/4 inch thick, and I ordered 3/4 inch thick canvases from canvasdiscounts.com. So that means that my canvas is going to be nice and flush with the outside of the frame, and that gives it that partly that floating look. It also looks floating because there's a skinny little space between the frame and the canvas, but you don't want it inset and you don't want it popping out too much. So the 1x2 board is the perfect thickness for me to use the 3/4 inch dowel and 3/4 inch canvases. Now the staining part it's kind of funny to me because this is the part I dread for each project, but once I start I realize, oh, this is really the easiest part. It goes by quick and the outcome is so amazing. So I'm using Rove and Dwell stain, and the color is called Farmhouse. And it's just a really nice warm stain, but it also has a little bit of gray. I'm not sure if you can tell on this video, but it's just a beautiful shade of stain. And I'm brushing it on, and then I'm taking the staining sponge and wiping it off. And the sponge really lets me get in the corners and grooves and get any excess stain out. Now, what I'm not showing in this video is that I went ahead and used a staining sponge for all of it. It was just faster and easier than a brush for me. You want to make sure to stain that inner edge, but I did not stain the back side and I didn't stain my corner supports. Now once you're all done staining and it's dry, you're going to go ahead and seat your canvas in, and then I'm just tacking it with 2 brad nails. Then you're going to go ahead and find the center of the top of the frame, mark it, and then you're going to line up your alligator hook. Now I really like these hooks because the nails are placed in these plastic guides so that I don't have to hold the nail and possibly hammer my finger, which I have before. It's just very nice and convenient. I lined up the white guides with the bottom edge of the frame on all of them, and I just find that it's very easy to use. So here's my wall and here's my gallery. I highly recommend setting up your gallery on the floor, and as you noticed, 2 little pieces of blue tape. That is the center. I measured out that's the center of my gallery, and then I found the center of the wall, which it's the wall sconce, which helps. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to cover both of those outlets. I could cover the cable outlet, but not the plug-in. Sometimes we put our TV on this wall, so that's something to kind of think about. If that bothers you, you might want to adjust your installation. Now, I am using a level because I originally thought I wanted to line up all of my bottom gallery photos, but I ended up moving one up. It was a little too level for me. I wanted the eye to stop at the largest print. So, but I highly recommend using levels, laser levels, painter's tape, and then I'm just using my little brass nails. You will notice, you can see the top of my brass nails. Some people don't like that. I kind of like it. It has kind of a vintage vibe for me, and so I like to hang photos and frames like that. Again, if that's not your thing, just use a different type of anchor system. So as you can see, I'm using the level to guide where I place my nails, because that's going to make sure the pictures are all the same. There's a little bit of tack, like sticky tack on the back of that level to hold it up there, but you do want to go ahead and check that. Sometimes it shifts a little bit and it will definitely affect your work. So when I hang a gallery, I'm starting with the center and then I'm moving out, or in this case, I'm doing all the bottom at the same time because like I said, I originally thought I wanted several frames lined up. Turned out I moved the large 16x20, but it was a good starting place. So, and as you can see, my other 16x20 floral print, it is off center, and that's how it was when I set it up. So if you like these vintage prints, if you want to know, well, where do you find these, definitely check out my blog. It's linked in the description along with other helpful links to the things that I used for this project. But I highly recommend Etsy. I ordered vintage prints online. I got 10 for $10, and then I switched a few out with some of my personal favorites. But it's still, the listing on Etsy gave me a beautiful idea of how to arrange the frames if I didn't already have something in mind. So that is an extra bonus if you do purchase from Etsy. Now, there are a lot of sites out there that offer royalty-free vintage images. You just can't resell them or distribute them. So it's up to you how much time you have, how much time you want to take, but I think there's some beautiful curated collections on Etsy, so I highly recommend that. As you can see, I'm just doing one at a time. I started in the center, built across, took care of the left side, then I'm taking care of the right side. And that swan picture right there is another fun project, and I will be creating a YouTube short on how I printed that image on fabric. It is so cool and so easy, and it gives it that canvas look, and it turned out great. But obviously you can only do this for as large as 8 by 10 unless your printer can print larger. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to answer the problem for the larger canvases, but for the smaller ones, it's a very cool technique. So be sure to subscribe and like this video, and you'll definitely want to get alerts for when that short is delivered, because it is so cool. So one more thing I'd like to mention about this gallery wall is that wall sconce. That wall sconce is not hardwired into the wall, and it has a wireless bulb, which is easy to charge, and it really lights up this gallery beautifully. So make sure you check out the description. I will link that video on how to do a wireless light anywhere. Find that in the description. But I just want to thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you're inspired to create your own gallery wall and with beautiful floating frames. So check out these final shots and have a great day.